Hey guys, it's Alexandra from EyeLoveKnots.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my Taryn Afghan square, which is this cream tweed colored square here. My Taryn series features the easy Tunisian Simple Stitch. It is a great beginner stitch, also great for advanced. I find this stitch pattern to be quite therapeutic to work and so versatile. I am going to be turning my Afghan square into a throw pillow, but I'm going to be showing you how to work the stitch, and I will provide a chart showing how many stitches you'll need depending on the size you want to work. I have 12 sizes of Afghan squares. You can work anywhere from 4 inches up to 27 inches. This square is great. You can make a bunch and sew together for an Afghan. You can make a throw pillow like I'm going to work. You can make 2 fronts, sew it on 3 sides, add a handle, and you have a tote bag. You can work it in cotton yarn and you'll have a washcloth, and so many more ideas. My Afghan square has a very simple border worked around it, just to make it a little bit easier when I'm ready to assemble my throw pillow. It also gives a little bit cleaner of an edge. So I'll be showing you how to do that. I'm using Red Heart Super Saver in the color Aran Fleck. It's a cream colored yarn base with flecks of black, gray, and brown. It's a beautiful, cozy tweed yarn colorway. I'm also going to be using J10 6mm Tunisian Crochet Hook. This is Clover brand. I got it as part of an interchangeable set. So this part right here just unscrews and I can change out the cord and the stopper. This one just happens to be a really long cord because I was working a shirt before this. Depending on the size of the square you're making, you may or may not need a cord. I'm going to work a small sample up since my square is finished, so I'm going to just unscrew this and take my cord off so it's easier for me to work the stitches on camera here. By nature, this stitch pattern curls, so if I let this stay here, it would curl up. That's just the nature of the stitch pattern. You can ease it a little bit by going up hook sizes. You want to use a hook size larger than what you normally would when you're crocheting. So when I'm just normally crocheting, I use an H8 5mm crochet hook with my Red Heart Super Saver. Here in Tunisian Crochet, I'm going to use a J10 6mm, so that's up 2 hook sizes. Even that though is still not going to prevent the curling. It is still going to be there somewhat, so you can block it to get rid of that, or when you assemble it in whatever project you're working on, it will also smooth out with the weight of the seams and the project, or you can block it into shape. I'm going to be using this square to make a throw pillow, so gauge is essential because I want it to fit my pillow form. Depending on your project, gauge may or may not be essential. In a lot of projects, as long as the sizes are consistent, then it's not a big deal. For example, if you did a tote bag with this, or if you did an Afghan with this, or even if you made a throw pillow that you were going to make 2 fronts and stuff with stuffing instead of put a pillow form in, gauge is not essential. But because I'm going to make my pillow envelope style and I need it to fit my pillow form, gauge is essential. Let's talk about gauge. You're going to need a soft tape measure. When we measure gauge here, I am going to lay the edge of my soft tape measure up against one of the vertical bars right on the right side of it where it would begin or end right there. Then I'm going to measure over 16 stitches, and each stitch is going to measure from right here to the right of the vertical bar all the way up to the same place of the next vertical bar. That's going to be 1 stitch. So you're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way until you get to 16. And when you have 16 stitches across, it's going to equal 4 1/8 inches wide. If you're measuring larger than this, you'll want to switch to a smaller crochet hook and rework the same sample. If you're measuring smaller than this, then you'll want to switch to a larger crochet hook and work the same sample. So rather than working the entire square up or even the full width of it, I recommend just working a sample of maybe 25 stitches by about 20 stitches tall. You can take your gauge there for the width. 16 stitches wide equals 4 1/8 inches. 14 rows tall is going to measure 4.5 inches tall. This gauge is taken immediately. You work the sample, you take your measurements. This yarn, after resting, will scrunch up. It will shrink in size. What I normally do is I work my sample, and then I leave it on my table overnight. I go work on other projects or other things around the house or whatever I have to do. The next day I will come back to it and I will take my gauge again. After resting, I find that the height of this pattern will shrink. 14 rows did measure 4.5 inches tall. Now it's going to measure 4.25 inches tall. Doesn't seem like that big of a difference, but in the grand scheme of things, when you think of 14 times however many rows you're working for your project, that's 1/4 of an inch smaller for every 14 rows. So just take that into consideration. Each yarn is a little bit different, and each stitch pattern is a little bit different. So this is worked with Red Heart Super Saver in the Tunisian Simple Stitch. So if you're looking at my written pattern, that's what it means: immediately and after resting. I do have this attached to this corner to corner square, but that was just so I could take pictures without it curling up. So the actual pattern that we're working is just this Afghan square on the top. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with a slip knot. So I brought the yarn over my fingers here, wrap it around my index finger 2 times, hold the tension with my middle finger and my thumb, pull the loop on the left up over the other one but not off my finger. Then I'll pull the loop that's on the left now up over the other one and off my finger. Insert my crochet hook where the loop that's on my finger is, pull it off. I'll hold the working yarn in my right hand and the short tail end in my left. I'm going to just tighten it to normal tension. Before I begin here with the chain, the stitch multiple for this stitch pattern is really simple. There is none. So any number of stitches works. If you work 10 chains, you're going to have 10 stitches, and you just work evenly amongst those 10 stitches. There is no set stitch multiple for this, so it makes it even more versatile because you can get it even closer to the width that you're looking for, simply by just working one more or one less stitch at a time. So when it comes to gauge, if you need to adjust your stitches, you can do it just by adding or taking away one chain at a time, which will be equal to 1 stitch. My original square was worked in the 14-inch size for my throw pillow, but I'm going to work a sample up in the 4-inch Afghan square size. For that size, I'm going to start with a chain 13. I'll put up a chart now showing how many chains you should have depending on what size you want to make. I'm including square sizes 4 through 27, 12 sizes in total. Alright, to chain, we're going to yarn over our hook and pull through the loop. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. I have 3 chains here. I'm going to go ahead and work a total of 13, but you work however many you need for your size. Alright, I have my 13 chains worked here. The foundation of this row is going to be worked into the back bump of these chains. So looking right now, you see the V shape. That is the front of the chain. We just want to rotate it so that we're looking at the back and the back bump right there in the center. The loop that's on our hook is going to count as our first stitch, and that first bump that's right there we're going to skip. The second bump is where we're going to start working into. We're going to take our crochet hook, insert it right underneath, picking up that loop on our hook. So when you do that, you're going to insert right in the center of the chain, leaving the V shape on the bottom and picking up just the top back bump on your hook. Then yarn over, pull through, and you have 2 loops on your hook. We'll do the same thing all the way down, so insert into the next stitch, picking up just the back bump on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, we have 3 loops on our hook. Insert your hook into the next stitch, picking up just the back bump on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, we have 4 loops on our hook. Continue working down the row. And now we have the same number of loops on our hook as chains that we started with. For my sample here, I have 13 loops on my hook. And it's going to continue being 13 stitches all the way up. So take time to count if you need to, make sure that you haven't lost any stitches along the way. This is the forward pass of the first row. We work into the back bump so that it gives us a cleaner finished edge. You can also work into the front of the chains directly into the center if that's what you prefer. But I really like how this gives you the V-shaped stitches on the bottom, which will match the top once we get there. To work the return pass is going to be the same for each of the remaining rows. We're going to start by yarning over and pulling through the first loop only. This counts as a chain 1 for the row. Then you'll probably have to scrunch up your stitches to get them closer to the end so it's easier to work through. We only do this chain 1 in the beginning. For the rest of them, we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on the hook. Continue all the way down, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only. And now we've completed row 1. For the remaining rows, we're going to work into the front vertical bar of the stitches. We do not start with a chain 1 here. We only start with a chain 1 on the other side when we work our return pass. So we're about to work a forward pass for row 2. The loop that's on our hook is going to count as our first stitch, so we're not going to work into the first stitch below it. To begin the next stitch, we're going to find the vertical bar. And if you look closer at your stitch, you'll see that it kind of looks like the V-shaped stitch there, with the V-shaped stitch coming out of the center. But you can see a back leg there and a front leg. That front leg is the vertical bar that we want to work into. So we're going to insert our hook directly into the center, picking up just that top vertical bar, only 1 loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through, and we have 2 loops on our hook. Find the vertical bar of the next stitch, insert your hook right into the center, picking up just that top loop on your hook. Yarn over, pull through that loop, and now we have 3 loops on our hook. Find the vertical bar of the next stitch, insert right into the center, and when I say into the center, I mean we're leaving that back leg there. We're working into the center, picking up just that top front leg, that top vertical bar. Yarn over, pull through, we have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to continue picking up just the top front vertical bar on our hook, yarn over and pull through, and we'll have the same number of loops on our hook as we've had previously. That's my second to last stitch of the row. For the last stitch, instead of picking up a vertical bar, I'm going to work into the entire stitch. So I'm going to find the edge, and I'm going to insert my hook through. It's going to pick up 2 loops there. That's a V-shaped stitch there. We want to pick up both of those loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through both as well. This is going to help form a edging there that looks like the V-shaped stitches from the chain below. That's going to be a lot easier to work our border into as well. And right now our forward pass for row 2 is complete. Now we need to work a return pass. So we're going to start by yarning over and pulling through 1 loop only. That's our chain 1, and we only do it on the return. And I'll scrunch up my stitches so they're closer to the edge. And I work it just as I did before. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, leaving the rest on my hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on my hook. And I'm going to continue all the way down the row. And now row 2 is complete. You can already see the stitches forming there. They look like sideways V-shaped stitches, and then the vertical bars are lining up. All the remaining rows are going to be worked exactly the same as row 2. So let's work one more row together. The loop on our hook counts as our first stitch, so we don't work into this vertical bar. As you can see here though, you are forming a V-shaped stitch on the side, which is going to match what we're creating on the edge and what we started with. My next stitch of the row is going to be worked into the top front vertical bar there. So I'm inserting into the center, picking up just that top loop only of the vertical bar, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook. Insert my hook into the center of the next stitch, picking up just the top vertical bar on my hook, yarn over, pull through. I have 3 loops on my hook. Insert my hook into the center of the next stitch, picking up just the top vertical bar, yarn over, pull through, 4 loops on my hook, and I'll continue working my forward pass all the way down until I get to the last stitch. And now that I'm here at the last stitch, instead of working into the vertical bar, I'm going to insert into the side edge, picking up 2 loops on my hook, that V-shaped stitch there, yarn over and pull through. The forward pass is done and I'm ready to return. I'm going to start by chaining 1, so yarn over, pull through 1 loop only, then scrunch up my stitches, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, and continue all the way down, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only. And there we are, row 3 finished. The rest of your rows are going to be worked exactly the same, with a forward pass worked into the front top vertical bar all the way to the end, work into the entire stitch at the end, then chain 1 and work a return pass where you yarn over and pull through 2 loops only until you make it back to the end. I'm going to put up a chart showing how many rows you should have worked depending on the size that you want. To count the number of rows here, you can look to the vertical bars that are right there in between the sideways V shape. 1, 2, 3 vertical bars, that's equal to 3 rows. Go ahead and continue working however many rows you need, and then I'll be back to show you how to finish off and work the border. I've added just a couple more rows here. Now I'm ready to finish off, and then I'll add a border. Basically, for the finish, we're going to work slip stitches across. The loop on our hook is going to count as our first stitch. I'm going to insert into the top front vertical bar as normal. Then I'll yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. Insert into the next top front vertical bar, yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. Insert my hook into the next vertical bar, yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. And I'll continue working across the row. Just one more stitch left here, and I'm going to insert into the whole entire stitch as I have been doing, picking up both loops there. Then yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. And that finishes off the finish. You want to try to work these slip stitches as loose as possible so that when you work your border you don't struggle as much to work into them. But this finish right here mimics the look of the stitches from your foundation, as well as on your right side and on your left side. My left side is a little bit tighter, but you have even stitching all the way around, and that's going to make it really easy to add a border. And if you're not interested in adding a border, that's okay too, because the stitching is nice and even. You can block your piece so it doesn't curl, or you can sew a bunch together, or whatever your project calls for. You can just go from here without adding the extra height and width from a border. I like that the border reduces some of that curling, and if you do decide to add a border, the more rows to the border you add, the more weight it adds, the less it curls. For the border, I'm going to work in single crochet. You can work in whatever your desired stitch pattern is, but I'm going to start with a base of single crochet. I'm going to start with a chain 1. To single crochet, we insert our hook into the stitch, picking up both loops from that V shape, yarn over, pull through the stitch. We have 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert your hook into the next stitch, picking up both loops of that V shape, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. And continue single crocheting down the side. Here I've worked my very last stitch of the row. I'm going to chain 3 for my corner. Then I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch, which is along the bottom now. When I insert into that, I'm going to put the beginning tail end over my crochet hook so I can crochet over it and complete a single crochet. I'm going to continue working over my tail there for 2 more stitches, so I'll single crochet into the next stitch over the tail. and one more here with the tail over my crochet hook. That's going to count as the first pass of my weaving, and now I'm going to drop it and I'll finish weaving it in a few. I'm going to pull up a loop here just so I don't lose it, and my corner is going to have this chain space here. I like the shaping of this chain space. If you want something a little bit more rounded, you can work less chains here. I'm going to continue on single crochet into each stitch here all the way to the end of the row. That's my last stitch for the row. I'm going to chain 3 for my next corner. Then I'll single crochet into the next stitch, which is on the side, and continue single crocheting up the side. That's my last stitch there. I'm going to chain 3 for the next corner. Then I'll single crochet into the next stitch along the top. And these are all the slip stitches, so they might be a little bit tough to work into, but I'm going to continue single crocheting into each stitch there along the top. There's my last stitch of the top. I'm just going to work a chain 2 here and slip stitch join to the very first single crochet, insert my hook under both loops of that first single crochet, yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. And we chain 2 here because that slip stitch adds a little bit of length here. And I'm going to pull up a loop here so I don't lose it. And there is the first round of our border finished. This is a great basis if you want to change up your stitch pattern now. I love the way it looks when you work the next round into the back loop only. You'll want to just make sure that if you do add any more rounds, you are increasing in the corners so that your piece will grow larger but continue to lay flat. And increasing simply means working multiple stitches or chains at the corners. When you're ready, you're just going to fasten off here and then weave in your ends. For my throw pillow, I am only working one round of the border, so this is where that stops. But this basis is going to make it a lot easier when it comes to assembling the pieces of the pillow. Here's where I worked the last slip stitch of the border. I have already fastened off my yarn. I'm just going to pull up on this loop to break it. Then I'll insert from the wrong side to the right side into the same stitch I slip stitched to, yarn over, and pull that tail end to the back. Now it's going to be easier to weave in. Right here is where I had my initial tail end and I worked over several stitches. I've already threaded my tapestry needle. My magic number is 3. I feel the most comfortable after 3 passes when I weave in my ends. You can do whatever is most comfortable for you. So by crocheting over several stitches here, that's going to count as my first pass. So I'm only going to work 2 more here. I always work the same way when I enter and exit the stitches. Instead of picking up the whole entire stitch, I insert my needle into the center of the stitch, breaking it in half. Then I'll work back through several stitches here And when I exit, I'm going to break a stitch in half as well. This is going to help capture my yarn better. And before I continue with my passes, I just use my fingers to manipulate the fabric so that it doesn't bunch up. Then I'll enter into a nearby stitch here, breaking it in half, work through several of the same stitches, and upon exit, break my stitch in half as well. That's going to make 3 passes here, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric, and I'm ready to fasten that off. Here at the top, where I finished my border, I'm going to do the same exact thing. And I'm going to work it into the bulkiness of the border there. And now my square is complete. Ignore the curl, because as soon as I assemble my pieces to make my throw pillow, that curl is going to go away. And again, if you are not making a throw pillow, if you're seaming squares together, the weight will stop the curling, or you could block your square. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. You'll find the free crochet pattern linked in the description below. Please smash that like button and hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.